Welcome back to Confessions of a Recruiter with Blake and Declan. We are on a global mission to build the world's largest community of recruiters so we can all connect and succeed together.
That's right. If you want to check out more of Confessions of a Recruiter, jump onto confessions.tv, subscribe to our bi-weekly newsletter, access merch, and if you want to chat to us directly, join our Discord at XR House with the links below. Now, we hope you enjoy this episode.
All right, well, thank you, Sally and Ali, for joining us from Peoplefusion Newcastle. What do you think of Talent X?
It's great.
Got good energy.
Yeah?
Good people.
Have you been here before?
Yes.
Yes, we have.
Been along to a few of these and also some conferences that are 3 and 4 days, and it's been really good.
I've heard that you guys love your parties, love your conferences. Can you walk us through, maybe let's just start off in a little bit of a saucier story. Walk us through the latest Christmas party.
Who have you been talking to?
Just a guess.
Olivia.
No sauce.
Oh, they're pretty memorable, the Peoplefusion Christmas parties.
Are they?
Yes.
Are they themed? Are they just ad hoc?
Oh,
They generally involve a boat and water and us singing our theme song at the end.
What's your theme song?
Let's hear it.
All I want to do is make love to you.
That's why partnership works so well.
And then normally we jump fully clothed into the water, wherever we might be.
Love it.
And think about the sharks later.
Are you coming to the awards night tonight?
We are.
Well, don't do that off the Captain Cook.
Yeah.
Look, you never know.
Yeah.
We have been in Sydney Harbour before,
We
actually.
have.
Okay, so you've been sometimes dubbed as the queen recruiters of the Lockyer Valley. Is it the Lockyer Valley?
The Hunter Valley.
The
Hunter
Hunter
Valley.
Valley. Yep. Okay.
Not quite there.
Almost had that one.
But hey, we could take over that as well.
Yeah. So walk us through Peoplefusion. How did it start? What was the moment where you thought, all right, let's go out on our own?
Yeah, it's where it all started. We've known each other for a very long time. Went to school together. Had different careers and roles, and really came together. And Peoplefusion was born out of a great idea, a good grounding, and we just knew that we worked well together.
Awesome. And so what roles does Peoplefusion recruit in?
A lot of your corporate service space, so, accounting, finance, HR, marketing, exec management, admin. But the great thing today is all the newborn roles of strategy, innovation, a lot of,
Energy.
data analysts, all those sort of roles. And we're quite fortunate in the Hunter Valley because we have a bit of everything that we can access. It's great to see the evolution of roles as the years have gone by.
And do you only recruit in the Hunter Valley and around Newcastle, or do you do stuff across Australia?
No, predominantly in the Hunter Valley and Newcastle. We do bits and pieces for clients, but we really focus. We love that area. There's so much more work to be done, so we're really focused and I guess dialed into the talent pools there and the great organisations that are either there and existing or, excitingly, those that are emerging.
Yep. Perfect. And then, so it's coming up to 23 years. Is it this year or next year?
That is a really long time.
Yeah.
That is a good question.
Yeah, we
Does it
forget
feel
to
like-
celebrate.
Does it feel like 23 years, or does it feel like
No.
yesterday?
Clearly
No.
we started when we were 10.
And it's quite ironic when you look at a candidate CV that may have been somewhere for 23 years, and you can easily jump to a conclusion of, oh, gee, they've been a bit staid, and then you go, hold on a minute, that's us. And we feel as fresh as we did 23 years ago.
Yeah, that's awesome. And are you both, when was the last time you were on the tools filling a role?
Like yesterday.
today.
Really?
This morning.
No way.
We just seem like we can't seem to get it out of our DNA of just what we still love to do. So I guess we've moved more to a model of having like key people like Wendy, our general manager, who take care of a lot of the business process improvement and all of those sorts of things, so that we can still have the adrenaline rush of some
They both
recruitment.
bill.
Yeah.
Who's the bigger biller?
This month, Al.
Oh, is there a bit of rivalry there with Billings?
Oh, of course.
Really?
Look, I think there's that. I mean, we once went camping as a Peoplefusion crew, and we played a board game, and Sal and I ended up having this big argument because we were competitive.
What board game was it?
Oh, I can't even remember. It wasn't Monopoly, was it?
No, I don't know.
It was something else.
You might have bought Park Lane and I wanted it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and we were like, wow, we are competitive.
Yeah. We actually had a team building day last week in the office, and one of the ladies organised this great game of Jenga, with recruitment questions on the game of Jenga. I was competitive. My heart rate was going. I didn't want the stack to drop. It was good.
That is a great idea. We've got questions on our Confessions of a Recruiter card. Was that your idea?
Miss Olivia.
Jenga questions. That is next
It was
level.
awesome.
That's the creativity that we need on Confessions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you can write us up a 101 of getting creative on that. So does that competitiveness, I think my mic's not going too well, is it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a risky
Bit
one.
crackly.
All right, I got it now. So does that competitiveness kind of simmer down into your staff? Like, does everyone kind of adopt the same competitiveness, or how is the team now seeing the two owners going back to back on billings for the month? Like, how does that kind of relate to the rest of the team?
Oh, I think we have this unique ingredients at Peoplefusion where there's the individual, achievement, I'd say, more than competitiveness. But then there's this team, like, united. We're all in it together, better together.
Yay!
It's a healthy competitiveness.
Yeah.
I mean, we've certainly not built a business based on people undermining each other or fighting for tooth and nail.
How do you balance competitiveness with being like one unit? Because in a lot of agencies, one of the major reasons that we hear why recruiters leave is like, oh, it's like dog eat dog. Everyone's trying to fight over the same candidate or the role, and I just want to, go to a different agency where it's not like that. But it's kind of like a really tricky balance between getting them, jacked up and competitive and wanting to build the most in the office, but then not at the detriment to maybe the other recruiters that might not be billing as much and getting a little bit head nicked almost. How do you balance that?
Yeah, I think it's sticking to your values. You're a team. You're open, you have great conversations, and we're only all as strong as one another. So we have to lift one another. So we have that really good culture of helping each other, because obviously you have new people coming in. You want them to achieve. You don't want them to be 3 months down the track and wondering, what am I here to do? So that doesn't just come from Al and Sal. It comes from everybody sitting in and around them every day, lifting them and helping them. So that values piece, like bringing it back to that, it's not about the individual. We celebrate individuals' performance, of course, but it's about celebrating as a team, which is why we're actually all here today.
Yeah,
I mean, over the years, we've learned, we've seen when complacency can set in if you don't sort of feed a competitive environment as well. So there's been times over the years where we've just seen the performance drop because, you've maybe allowed complacency to set in. So that's definitely been something that I think we're much better at catching.
What do you think people get most complacent on?
I think that, I've seen it play out when we've got, fabulous, great clients that have got fabulous projects on. But at the end of the day, they're a project, so they're going to come to an end. So it's making sure that in your ideal week, you're mixing it up, you're making sure that you are doing the activities to create that new relationships, pipeline of work, not just sitting on that, one client that might be all-consuming for 6 months because they've got a large recruitment remit with you.
And you think you're on an absolute gravy train.
Yeah,
and
that's
you're
right.
like, I'm killing it.
Yeah.
And then it finishes and you're like, oh, who was that
I've
person?
got nothing.
That's right,
Yeah,
exactly.
And when you look year on year at who were your top 5 clients, your top 10 clients, because we've got both temp and perm.
Yeah.
If we look back 10 years ago, we go, oh, wow, like they're not even on our list anymore because they're now in a different cycle of business. So I guess it's catching the different cyclic nature of your clients.
And so how many team members have you got now?
15.
15. So
Yeah.
that's a decent sized business.
Yeah.
So we've been speaking to a couple of agency owners from, one-man bands to 100 staff, etc. And the feedback that we get is the hardest recruitment agency size is that kind of 10 to 20 area, because you've got to find new layers of management. You got to be thinking, all right, is this a billing manager? Is this just a manager only? And how to juggle these extra overheads that a smaller agency isn't used to. So has there been any kind of secrets that you've had realizations about to get from the 10 to the 15?
Yeah, I think you really need to look at moving to what are our systems and process, where are they documented, because you go from that 10-person headcount where you can't get around to everybody. Quality, if you don't have it documented, that can fall off as well, and that's where that management, getting those people in with the expertise to help you build that in your organisation, particularly if you like Al and I, that we still love recruitment, we love what we do, so we want to be on the tills for part of our role, not the whole 100%, but that's been a key learning for us and something that we've brought in expertise to help us with that. Until we did that, we just kept going from 10 to 12, then back to 10, so breaking through that.
Yeah. I
was just about to say, so what did you do to, like, from a training standpoint, mentoring? Did you get like a business coach in, or?
Yeah, we have Greg Savage as a business coach.
Okay.
Yep, so we've been with Greg this is our 4th year. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
All right, you got any goss? What's the dirt on Greg?
Well, look, we love Greg's cut through. Like, there's no bullshit. Like, if he needs to say it, he says it. We'd had a business coach from outside the industry for about the 4 years before that. And look, that person was very effective. We were able to work on some elements of our business. But yeah, Greg definitely gets to cut through.
Raw and real.
Yeah.
And when we see him rubbing his head in our meetings, we're like, oh shit, we're in
trouble.
Is that his thing?
Yeah.
He does this thing, he rubs his head.
That's why he was scrubbing his head in the podcast we did with him. Every time we spoke.
Every time we said something, he's like, oh, boys. I think someone said yesterday that the thing that they love about Greg is he keeps things super simple and grounded.
Yeah.
And, as, young business owners ourselves, we're probably falling into the trap of the shiny ball syndrome where we're like, oh, this looks good, oh, that looks good. And sometimes, we're trying to get away from this habit at the moment, but we judge everything on how many placements we need to make to pay for that. So we're like, oh, that's about 2.5 placements, and then we'll pay for that for the year. I reckon we should do it. And so that's one thing that Greg has actually said. He's like, guys, you really need to stop doing that. You need to kind of cut back on that as well. So, it's really interesting feedback around Greg. And I actually called him when I first started Vendito. And I called him, I found his number on some number finder. Called him like, yeah, Greg, my name's Blake. I've just started a recruitment agency. I'm looking for some mentoring, some training. He goes, how many people have you got? I was like, none. He goes, you're not for me. I was like, oh, okay. He's like, mate, I'll give you the number of someone else that you can talk to. So he gave me a bit of a cold shoulder. Did I ever tell you that story?
Yeah, that's how you met Ross.
Yeah.
Oh,
then I met
Ross. We love Ross too.
Ross, baby.
Yeah, Ross
awesome.
Clennett. He's
around
awesome,
here
isn't
today.
He?
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah, he is.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
And over the years, in our earlier years particularly, Ross was very instrumental in helping us
program.
feel like we're
Bring
heading
us
in the
back
right direction.
22 years ago, and what was the first day of Peoplefusion?
Dang. It's such a blur, to be honest.
It is.
Sal's got a better memory recall than me.
Oh, well, I remember, signing everything over, and Al and I, I was 6 months pregnant and going, it's all good. We just jumped into it. We'd worked together before. We knew what we wanted to do. And we're just really determined. And it's, I think, importantly in a partnership, you've got to be able to back one another and know that you've got each other's back, and that, if you're going to go, we say, into the trenches, who would I take? Well, it's going to be Al.
Yeah.
Hopefully she'd say the same.
Yeah, and we'd been managers in recruitment in our former life, and I guess you all, you think, oh yeah, no, we'll know how to run this business because we've managed it on behalf of the owner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It's a
very
different ball game, isn't it?
Oh, we did. We kind of did it all, and then GFC, a couple of months later, and then and we kind of went, oh, we survived that okay, and then Hunter Valley mining downturn.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, now it's real.
Yes. And when you are thinking about your debtors and just all the different layers of stuff that you don't really think about.
Yeah.
Was there any moments or many moments that you thought, shit, this isn't for us? Are we going to pack up shop? No.
Never.
It was always,
Never.
Okay, awesome.
And it's like, you can jump to the end and get all worried about, everything. But if you just keep focused on the activities, you'll get the outcome.
Yeah, and often we've found, those times where you might be thinking, you sort of might be doubting, your own energy levels, for example. Get out and see a client, best ingredient to, and we encourage our team to do the same. Just if you're having a tough day, just get out.
Yeah, best way to get over a past client's get a new one.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Works
it.
in other areas of life.
Yeah.
And then how do you create a winning culture within your team when they do go through that? Because I think a lot of new staff, even me, it was my second month. I think I did like 30K in my first ever month in recruitment, and then I did 10K in my second month. I was like, I'm no good at this. I need to leave. How do you try and train that out of people?
Yeah, I think you've got to ride the roller coaster with them. You've got to be there, coach, mentor, no witch hunting, like just review what could we do better, keep moving forward, like don't look back. Like there's always an opportunity to learn, and for the right people, they'll grow with you.
And strangely enough, we feel like we celebrate the performance or the wins of our team members and the team as a whole, but we often forget to celebrate the milestones of what we've achieved as a business. So we have to pinch ourselves sometimes and go, hold on a minute, let's actually stop and acknowledge that this is really good.
Yeah.
That actually brings me to the question that I wanted to ask. And this is a question that I ask sometimes depending on the situation of the recruiter or the agency owner or whatever it might be. And usually after a certain amount of success or time or something around that, it's like, what are your goals now? Like, you know, I'm thinking I'm 5 years into running my recruitment agency, and, you know, I'm thinking about Vendito being 20 years old, and I'm like, where am I even going to be? What are my new goals at 20 years? So can you share with us some of the goals that Peoplefusion have and what that kind of looks like?
Look, to be totally transparent, we've probably felt a little bit lost in the last year of what I'm looking at Wendy as I'm saying this, because she's been part of these conversations as what are our goals now? And that's something, when Greg does rub his head, I think it's because he goes, oh God, here we go again. But it is something that we're really just in the moment getting traction of now setting what does that next chapter look like.
And for us, like, it's about that, it always comes back to sustainability. We love that we can create roles for great people within our region. So how can we grow on that and build, create more recruiters to have a successful career in Newcastle and the Hunter? And, just being here today at Talent X, looking at, we've got a brilliant tech stack. So, like, meeting with our suppliers, like, how do we say squeeze the lemon? How do we get more out of that? How do we just get better with what we've got right now? Because we want to stay relevant and ahead of the game. It's always that lift the bar.
And what was your tech stack, if that was a thing, 20 years ago?
Oh, a green card box.
Bit of synergy there on that answer.
Every now and then we go, oh God, if only we just had the green card box, this would be so much easier. But
So
Explain the green card
What is
box.
that?
So literally every candidate, so you'd finish an interview, you'd come out, you'd grab a blank green card, like that sort of DL sort of size. You'd write their name, where they live, how far from home they're willing to travel, what their salary is, blah, blah, blah. And basically then you'd categorise them, and then a job would come in and you'd flick to your executive assistants or your finance managers, and that's
Pull
how
out the
you
green
go,
card.
oh, here we go, get on the phone.
I've got a question for you. So back then, 20 years ago, no tech. How many roles were you placing a month with no tech, and how many roles now are you placing with all this tech? Is it like the same?
Yes.
What's going on there?
So on average, we might place, say, 20 permanent appointments a month, or sometimes more,
higher,
like 20 to 30.
Yep.
And we
Back then.
used to personally manage about 15 permanent jobs each at a time.
Yeah, side by side at the desk.
So you've just got green cards
Yeah.
galore.
Yep.
Okay, yep.
So
And
you're
then-
weapon billers.
Yeah.
And then you'd go on
$1 million
leave.
billers.
So if you went on leave, you'd stand up your star, candidates, so that they
In the
stood
box?
out in the box if someone else needed to come and grab the box.
Yeah.
If Al's away, I went to her stand-up cards and off I went.
So do you know why, like, the billings and the placements haven't increased with all this new technology and all the crazy things that we've got today?
I think we're handling a lot more volume because of like social media, job boards, etc. Like, you've got a lot more candidates coming through. Back in our day, the job ad went in the newspaper, the fax machine went crazy. Overnight, you come into the big long line of fax paper. I don't think you necessarily had the huge volume that
No.
you can get at times on different jobs.
So you reckon we're just dealing with noise?
Yeah.
It's a lot of noise.
Dealing
So
with noise.
That's a big ticket item for us on our leadership agenda every fortnight. Like, what is the noise that we can get rid of?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing that's not serving us anymore? What's the sacred cow we no longer need?
So this has been brought up a couple of times in the last few podcasts around technology. So Talent X is obviously all around technology and all this kind of thing. And we've kind of come to a bit of a realisation, maybe over the last couple of weeks, that if we just peeled back all the bells and whistles that we've got and maybe spent the same amount but on soft skill training for our staff and not band-aiding things with technology for the staff, and we actually train them a little bit better, and instead of spending $1,000 a month on this software, we go, all right, that's $1,000 a month on training. We haven't done it yet. It's just a realisation over the last 2 weeks. We've been on the road, so. But what are your thoughts on that? Are we onto something there, or what's your feedback?
Absolutely.
I think so,
Because at
for
the end
sure.
of the day, any of our clients can go and improve their tech stack as well to start to, potentially be similar to ours. But they're not then wired for influencing, for addressing counter offers, for all those engagement pieces that we can do so well. We call it the art of seduction.
The art of seduction.
I once got it was the
Herald.
big heading in the local
One of the
newspaper.
girls come home to their partners and like, oh, I learnt the art of seduction today.
That's right. Our husbands go, what the hell?
But it was a talking point.
It
that
was. It got
worked,
attention.
That they are our our key differences between us and our clients.
It's a relationship. It's building the relationship. That was the context of that. And it's if you lose sight of that, and you're just in your tech, like, what business do you really have? Is it a people business or a tech business?
Yeah, you just get stuck submitting CVs.
Yeah,
when they work.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I'm going through something with my team at the moment where they get through that 12, they get into the end of 12 months and they're realising what the consultant word means in their actual job title.
Yeah.
And I think that's like that consultant part is what's going to carry through the next generation of recruiters, because a lot of, like, how many of your teams started in the last 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, about,
Yeah, we've got a few
probably
new starters.
4,
Yep.
3, 4.
And what are you doing?
Experience or no experience?
No
No
experience.
experience.
Okay.
And it's been amazing. Like,
Yeah.
we're looking at a couple of them as we speak. Actually, one did have experience, but internal recruitment experience.
Yep.
So they've come in at the best time
Yeah.
in recruitment history.
They're used to the gravy train,
Yeah.
and it's going to swing soon, and they need to be prepared. Is that what we're saying?
What are you going to do to prepare them?
Yeah, well, we're doing it already. It's
Right.
like days like today, our training last week with the Jenga game.
Yeah.
But, that constant, mixing the week up, we call it an ideal week. So what are those key activities to be a successful temp recruiter or perm recruiter? Make sure you're mixing that week up and doing all of those activities, not just relying on that gravy train that is there now that may not be.
It was interesting, the end of last financial year, Sal and I had our record year in the business, but we both agreed that it wasn't our most enjoyable year.
Yeah.
Interesting. Why?
Well, because you were just on this gravy train
It's relentless.
roller coaster, whereas like when it's not so flush with jobs, etc., that's when you get to really showcase your consulting ability. And that's what's kept us so engaged in this industry after 20 plus years.
Yeah.
You just want a few days with the green card box to bring it back to reality.
Sometimes. And a corner.
Yeah.
And then and what's the activities that are at Peoplefusion? Like, you've mentioned a few times already, what activities do they have to do? They have to do each week?
They got to
for
jump
an
in the
ideal-
water. They got to do Jenga.
They got to sing. Yeah.
Yep.
Sing.
Well, firstly, have fun and collaborate with one another.
Champagne a
Act as
couple of
team.
afternoons a week.
Yep, for
Nice.
sure. But other things are like, getting out to see that client, getting on site, visiting those placements. Like, don't lose sight of that. Sometimes it's easy to set and forget and move on to the next client and the role. If you're not there in your client's business, someone else will be. But you're also going to get a lot of energy and joy when you go out and visit that great client. So those are the sorts of things when we get really busy, stuck behind the computer, that you forget to do. Yeah, and I think that retention piece, like Al referred to earlier, like you need to be out there and building those relationships for when the times do get tough.
We don't set KPIs around, huge amounts of CVs being floated unnecessarily. We're more of a business that has always been about quality over quantity.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's held our brand so strong in the hunter.
So how do you measure the success of your recruiters?
Yep.
Yeah, combination. So certainly, at the end of the day, their fees that they've generated is important because it's what keeps us all in our roles and the doors open. But a lot of it is also about the, we have Sorcerer as a
Sourcer, all the reviews?
Yes. Yeah,
How
it's
is
been
that?
great. Really
Yeah,
good.
it's
that
been
good?
really good.
Oh,
Yeah.
If you're having a bad day, look at it. You can go on and there's some wonderful things that people say that you don't even stop to celebrate.
Yeah.
Give yourself a little pump up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think like we celebrate personal bests, or if someone's just placed a really hard role, celebrate with them, crack the bottle of champagne or the beer or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And just like actually enjoy the fruits of your hard
Yeah.
work.
We particularly celebrate the recruits where the consultant has gone and sourced the candidate themselves, so they've used LinkedIn talent because we have, LinkedIn Recruiter
Yeah.
or Seek Talent. Like we've got all those options available. So they're the real celebrations because that's where the consultant has really put themselves out to generate.
Proactive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about, what about your hires? So you've recently hired no experience. The funny thing is with Declan and I is we've never been able to get anyone with experience in our agencies, maybe up until 12 months ago, I guess. And not sure why. Maybe experienced recruiters look at a smaller agency and go, why would I want to work there? Or I'm not sure that, or maybe they just don't like us, who knows. But who do you normally hire? Do you normally hire experience or no experience and train them your ways? Or what's the strategy for growth?
Yeah, we hire attitude. Look at those that have got, like we know we can work with them. We know they can live and breathe the values. We share that as a common thing.
The girls are just like, yep, great attitude.
Yeah, great attitude, tick.
We've rarely recruited
we've
experience.
Yeah.
We may have had a complex at times over the years going, why does no one with experience want to come and work
It's the
for
word on
Yeah.
the street
so
about
it's
us.
just us.
Yeah. So we've felt
We're
the
the
same
top
as
3
you at
agencies
times.
recruiters don't want to work at.
There's a list.
Yeah. But generally it might have been people that have recruited in, another career.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've just thoroughly enjoyed the freshness that inexperienced
Yeah.
recruiters bring.
That
Yeah.
naivety and not, because sometimes you can get in your own head when you've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
Like I've seen people, like I would be like, oh, I'd never call that candidate. And then Alex, he called some guy in Darwin and ended up placing the role and he did an
Totally.
interview at a truck stop in the middle of Queensland.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm
Yeah.
like, mate, I wouldn't even call that guy. He's in Darwin.
And
Yeah.
that's where we have to get out of the way sometimes. And
Yeah.
like we pick ourselves up on it going, no, it's okay that we once thought that candidate wouldn't have been suitable. Let someone else have a fresh look at it.
Yeah.
So we've been picking ourselves up
Yeah.
on that, particularly in the more recent times. So-
Yeah. And I think as a business owner, it's a trap we can fall into where we're across everything and touching everything. It's like, get out of the way.
Yeah. I've got another question for you, and this is about your relationship as equal owners of the business.
Yes.
So 50-50. Okay, so Declan and I are going through this journey at the moment as well. We have our own agencies that we're sole directors of. We've been the person just to, the buck stops with us. Now we've joined forces to do this, and there's a little bit of a learning dynamic on who's responsible for what, whose personality is better for this and whose personality is better for that. So walk us through how you went on this discovery journey on, okay, that's Al's responsibility, that's your responsibility, and how does that work?
I think there's been a number of iterations of it over the years, where depending on what's happening, I mean, as Sal said, like she was 6 months pregnant when we started the business.
Yeah.
So I'm like, holy shit, like,
Did you
what
make
do I do
a
with
Did you
this
make
for
a
the next-
placement in the last
When I
3
had the baby.
Isn't
Beforehand.
recruitment emotional enough, let alone being like really pregnant?
Yeah.
Look, I've been training to children as recruiters since they were in utero, so we're good. We've got a good pipeline of recruiters coming through.
But there's been different iterations of it. I think like
Who's responsible for what? Is it ever a situation where like, oh, that's Sally's, Sally's dealing with that, I'm not doing that.
for sure. And
Yeah.
and like we both acknowledge we can do do these tasks or any of these, work across when each other's not there. But there's, we look at finance, Al will take on elements of that and run with that. So we're not crossing over each other every day. There'll be coaching and mentoring that at the moment, I'm in that space, but I'm talking to Al to say, can you come in and out with this person and help here? Our marketing. So you kind of break down what are those core pieces, all the hats you have to change as a business owner. What are they all? And have a really good conversation.
So Sal was, her DNA is more permanent recruitment. Mine originally was more temp contract recruitment. So I love temp contract. So I guess, in terms of subject matter expert in inverted commas, like Sal would more so take the perm lead, I'd more so take the temp contract lead.
Gotcha. Was there any moments where it's like, oh, geez, Sal keeps getting all these leads. Where's the leads for me? Like, is there any kind of strength and weakness there where...
No, it's pretty, pretty good in that space. But we acknowledge we've, had 20 plus years to build a really strong base of referrers and, business. But
we're very interchangeable.
Very interchangeable.
There's often people that will call me Sal and call
and I'm
Sal
Al.
We just
I'm
run
surprised
with it.
we are.
Is there ever a mum and dad moment where someone asks Sal and goes, I'm actually going to go ask Al now and see if I get the better answer?
And we really annoy him because apparently we're word verbatim.
Really?
Oh, God, she just said the exact same thing.
Oh,
It's got to be.
Once upon a time, I remember we were having a disagreement about the way something should be approached, and it was in the open floor plan. I was going back a few years now.
Yeah.
And one of the recruiters goes, oh, my God, you are like my 2 lesbian mothers.
That's definitely a compliment, isn't it?
Total compliment.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So, no, we have heaps of fun. But when Al just mentioned about the temp and perm and we talked about that competitiveness, that's still there today. But we just fight for both those areas together.
Yeah.
But I remember back in the green card box day, there'd be times when it's like, come on, perm team, you get out of my way and give me candidates, and we'd be in each other's green card boxes and having a great old time. But that was that really good camaraderie and like getting the best for the candidate and the client.
What about if someone's not, if someone needs to pick up the slack? Has there ever been a moment where you've turned to each other and been like, dude, you need to pick up the slack? Like, what's going on? I've got the whole business on my shoulders here. You need to rip in a little harder. Has that ever come up?
No.
No.
That's awesome.
I think we're both just really hard workers.
No, it honestly hasn't. And I think when you go into business with someone, it's I'm sure it's cliche, but it is definitely like another relationship or marriage or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So you can't just go into business with anyone, like whether just because they're a great recruiter, you go, oh yeah, let's go off and start a business together. You've got to have like other things that really matter, even like our families, like our husbands really like each other.
We holiday together. It's really sad.
Sal's kids call me Auntie Al. Like, so I
Is
think
this us in the future?
Would you?
This is all ahead of you.
Would you ever RV together?
We have.
Oh, you have?
No.
So we literally, like, I've got an RV, Sal's got a caravan, we pull up next to each other.
That's so good.
Yeah, one time we were visiting a friend 40 minutes up the road. Al said, I'm going to pull out the RV. So we sat up. I had a champagne while Al drove. That was great.
Yeah,
good old time.
So I think, any advice, I guess, for people thinking of going into business with each other, it's got to be more than being good at the job.
Yeah. You've got to like one another.
Yeah.
You've got to have the same values and drive.
Because that's like us. You get to the end of the day and you're like, oh, Blake will come back and be like, oh, this is done. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know we had to do that. And it's like really complimentary.
Yeah.
But I've been with people in the past and then just you're skull dragging them through every day. Like, come on, mate, let's keep going.
Yeah, and I think if you have that really good relationship where there may be some things that you might tweak, 10%, like let it go. It's not a biggie. And I think Al and I have never had that conversation, but I'm sure she does with me and I do with her, where it's like, you've got this. I totally trust you with that.
So you've never roasted each other or anything?
No, and it's really bizarre because, like, often, you ask the mum-dad question before, and we do have the same, we generally offer the same advice, but our way of getting there is very different. So I remember in the early days so I now know that I can't just put something on Sal and expect her to make a decision in the next hour. like she likes to process
I need
things
to
more.
process.
Yep. And so as the years have gone on, like I remember the early years when I'm like, why can't she just make a decision on that? Like I used to think to myself, well, I know that, no, that is how we do differ.
Yeah.
That Sal likes to sit on things and process it.
Yeah.
So Sal's Blake, Al's Declan.
There's always an Al and Sal, right?
Yeah.
But you're better together.
Yeah,
So, you know,
exactly.
yeah.
We've got a rule that you've got to sleep on it.
Yeah.
Declan will make a decision halfway still thinking about the actionable item. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this now. You're like, mate, let's just sleep on it. Let's
Yep.
just come back to it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
That's good. Yeah. And
That's
giving each other that space to do it
Yeah.
leads
Yeah.
to
Yeah, 20,
success.
sleep on
Yeah.
it is one of the
Yeah.
greatest lessons I've ever learned.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that actually, Declan.
And the only thing Al and I have agreed not to sleep on is like, don't ever let the sun go down on a conversation that might be awkward that you want to have that's important to your relationship. Like, don't take it home and dwell and it grows arms and legs.
Yeah.
Talk to one another.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to have one of them recently. I ordered a lot of jumpers.
Okay, all right, yeah. Let's see who's right here. Okay.
Mate, you
Go
can't
on.
compare them next to each other. So we've got these colourful ones, and I ordered ones that are like just the stencil version of our logo, just
Yeah.
black and white.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I thought that'd be good. So there's a lot of them, and I ordered heaps.
He spent
RV's
like
full.
$1,500 on
No, it was
on merch.
2,800. I spent, yeah. Anyway, so Blake walks into the office. He's like, oh, these are new jumpers. Maybe you tell the story. And
Oh, no, I walked in, I'm like, clearly this is our logo, right? And I've walked in, I've opened up these jumpers, and it's like a black and white version of our logo. And I've gone, oh, the print bar's fucked up. And I turned around and I said, Declan, have you fucking seen what they did? And he's like, oh, yeah, mate, And so, anyway, I probably overreacted there a little bit.
It's just a brain fart.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, because we spent so much money on this merch that wasn't even our logo.
So then, to make it up, I bought 20 jumpers, 20 shirts in colours out of my own money. I didn't charge ex-recruiter, so I made up for myself.
Do you want us to
But
buy
he
the black and
absolutely-
white version?
Yeah,
We'll
if you
take
can,
some,
yeah,
we'll take
take
some.
some.
We're giving
We
them
wanna
away
save your
today.
relationship.
Girls, you can all have some. Everyone
You can
gets
all
some.
have an
gets a
extra
jumper.
critter. Yeah.
Hey, just wanted to jump in here. We got a confessions hotline, so give us a call, send us a text if you want to share any juicy stories, or even just ask a question that's been on your mind, because we'd love to hear from you. The phone number is 0485 865 483. Enjoy the rest of the show.
So, how did you two meet each other?
So we went to year 7, like we went to high school together.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it turns out, my grandfather, for
Yeah.
example, was
Yeah.
Sal's grandfather's first ever employee.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So that's how far back it goes. I mean, we
What
certainly.
did they do?
They're in cars, spray
yeah,
painting,
like
fixing
auto
cars,
electrician.
auto electrician, yeah.
And so our parents know each other, but it's not like we've lived like really closely. We weren't, good,
No,
like,
growing up, I knew that was Al, and she knew I was Sal,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
hi.
So, did you work at different agencies and then come together?
Yeah, well, we were actually really fortunate. Al worked, was actually a client at the time and came in for a career change with one of the other recruiters, and they came down and said, Ali Main's here, she'd be a fabulous recruiter. I said, from East Maitland? They said, yes. I went, oh my God, let me at her.
yeah, and Salad started there
Couple of
5
months.
months before.
Yeah,
I
not
think.
long.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And then,
yep.
so you worked at the same agency?
Yes.
And then you decided to go start your own agency together?
No, we did, yeah.
Yes.
We
had
did.
an opportunity to sort of, take part of that business away, and then we went and we bought another business
bought
as well.
2 businesses
Yeah.
in the 1 year.
Yeah.
How did that work?
Yeah, well, we were fortunate. We had did a management buyout on the business. She was ready to retire, and it was a very, very sort of administration business, and we wanted to get into contracts and procurement and kind of rough it up a bit.
Like mining and
Yeah.
So we went and bought a one-man band business.
Yeah.
And
How do you
that was-
value a one-man band business?
Not
That's
the way
a
we
great
did.
question. Not the way we
Don't do
did.
it.
You overpaid.
Yeah, we overpaid.
We,
Yeah.
paid,
One-man band.
we paid handsomely.
Yes, and he still says, "Oh, gee, thanks for building my new house for me."
Oh.
You can imagine our reaction to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, we just backed ourselves and went. You know, even when we figured out, you know, pretty quickly about not even a year into that, when they were going through their you know, his earnout, we just kept looking forward, not dwelling on like we've made that decision, we're in, so let's just keep going.
Yeah, and that's where I guess then we realised in many ways we had to then treat the next phase of our business like a startup because one by one the contractors that we bought were dwindling.
Yeah. That would have been devastating.
Yeah, well, you know, we just kept paddling, I think, because as a business owner, right, you don't have a chance to kind of sit and rock in the corner for too long, or you won't have a business. But honestly, I think that's the beauty of a partnership. You can at least look at someone else who can go, we're in it together. You're not by yourself.
And there's no blame tactics. Like, you know, we look at the fact that we bought that business and we definitely paid overs. We never thought, oh, well, we shouldn't have done it or that was your fault.
There was never
no blame.
No, at all.
It always happens for a reason.
Yeah,
At least you know you'll never buy a one-man band.
No. What were we thinking? Who knows?
I mean, you could do something with blended.
So what's the plan now? Do you would you ever grow it and then find someone to take over Peoplefusion, or would you sell and hopefully find someone like you guys with a bit more money and sell it for overs? Or
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, you know, we'd always like to think that that if there's people in our business that want to then you know, be the next owners, that they are looked at first. So if we were ever going down that path, that it wouldn't be without first addressing that internal. So
is there anyone here in line?
Oh, all of them.
Yeah.
Wendys running for the hills. No. And look, part of that is why we're now focused on building, you know, that roles and responsibilities, like, and getting clarity around that. I'll say middle management, billing manager, whatever, you know, you might call it. But looking at how do we build those layers into our business so it's not reliant on us. We've got a fabulous team. People can grow and achieve and want to be there. And we've still got heaps of energy. Like, you know, Greg really challenges us on that question. And so you can at least go, well, where are you headed? But for now, we're just still so energised and into our business and our team. Like, there's so much more that we want to achieve.
But rather than recruiting to the extent that we have been ourselves, so we've been reducing that and spending the opportunity to coach and mentor the team so that they, you know, we're behind them, sort of helping give advice where we need to, where they might ask us for it, but it's not Ali and Sally's fees. So we're really defining that we're just sitting in the executive roles and everything else is where we then coach and mentor the team.
It's really hard. I'm finding it really hard to be the sole contributor to the billings and the profit of the business, and then just kind of stepping back a little bit, and then your billings drop away, and then you're just relying on everyone's billings. I feel like that's a really scary transition where you go, wow, the revenue's down, but the profit's way down as well. How are you finding that?
Like, we've struggled with the same worry at times, but and here we are though today now still needing to intentionally step away from doing so much recruitment, because otherwise we're just going to be in the same position in another 5 years and then another 5 years. So it's like you have to be prepared for it to maybe dip somewhat, to then know that you've got a more sustainable business.
And what's the split between perm and temp?
Currently, it's sort of originally for the large history of our business, it was about 60% temp and about 40% perm, which is a nice mix. It's flipped at the moment because of the last 2 years of how many permanent jobs have been around, and you know, that contractor workforce being you know, not as available. But we're just seeing it starting to swing again, and we're very excited by that. So we're very much setting those goals for this next year and 2 and 3 years to be now swinging that percentage back to.
And do you have plans to open like a Sydney office, a Brisbane office, anything regional?
Probably not the capital cities, but we'd certainly look at where there's, you know, good regional opportunities.
I think there's a lot of opportunity in regional. All right, let's go again. I think there's a lot of opportunity in regional, because there's not. I feel like the regional people, just the general persona, they're a little bit more like genuine, down to earth. They'll tell you how it is. Where you recruit in capital cities, and it's a little bit more churn and burn and like not as relationship driven, and you get candidates ghosting you. And every time that I've recruited in a regional town, it's like a breath of fresh air. Because the guy's like, sorry, mate, not interested in that one. And you're like, oh, cool, okay, I'm moving on. Whereas you speak to someone in a capital city, they're like, yeah, okay, I'll get back to you on that. And you're like, no, you won't.
No, you won't.
Yeah.
And it's been our test point for any decision that we make about a client's fee, whether there's going to be a replacement. It's always, if we run into them in the supermarket or at a cafe, because in Newcastle it will happen.
Yes.
Can we hold our head up high? That's pretty much our litmus test.
Yeah. And if you can't, go back and review what you've done, because it needs to change.
How many clients have you run into at the supermarket?
I think nearly all of them.
Many. The minute you think about someone in Newcastle, you see them.
All right, I'm going to change gears here.
Do you want me to do them because you got mic troubles?
Yeah, I've got mic issues. So we're starting a new segment, and we've basically got a bunch of questions on these cards, and to wrap. Let me give me that.
Yeah, we got it. No.
I can't even talk out of this. All right, so we've got some questions on these cards, and generally we do 3 questions at the end of the podcast to kind of slowly wrap things up. Sometimes the questions are a little spicy, sometimes they're not. So we'll see what questions come out of this, and we'll have 3 questions each.
And I think the girls get to ask a couple too. Staff questions that aren't on the cards.
We didn't even know what spicy meant until the other day.
Wouldn't you associate Fusion Christmas parties with spicy?
Now that I know what that means,
Yes.
I'm just going to shuffle these, just so we know it's fair. Okay, ready?
Ready.
Ready.
We've asked this one before.
Must have been an easy one, Al.
What's the most important lesson you've learned from rejection or failure?
It's what you do. What's the next step you do after that to rectify it?
Great answer.
And okay, yep, that's the lesson. I was about to say, can you give me an example?
I think it's like,
Give me an example of you guys getting hardcore rejected, and then you figured out how to turn it around.
Hardcore rejected. Oh, don't jinx us.
Where you've almost like, it's almost like a little bit embarrassing. You're like, oh shit.
I find rejection embarrassing all the time, and it might not even be hardcore, but I think it's just because I care. So things that have come to mind if, you do lose a proposal or what have you, but it's like, rather than throwing the toys out of the cot, it's about, keeping the door ajar for that client who's gone another way on that occasion. Like, turn it around. Still ask, can we meet up for coffee? And don't make it about the rejection, but make it about, like, still building that relationship. So I guess don't get caught up in your own self-ego or emotion. Like, get on with it.
Love
Here
that.
we go. This will be good because I think you're both huge billers. What's the biggest fee you've ever made?
I think about 60 from memory.
Yeah, mine would be a bit less. I think mine was early 50s, I was going to say. Yeah.
What were the roles?
Executive.
Yeah.
Like GM, HR?
Yeah, like CEO.
Yeah,
but
CEO
I guess
role.
a lot of our organisations in the Hunter are, they might be like, say, 500-person businesses, so not thousands.
So that sort of CFO, CEO space.
And how do those, is there a time in your career where they just pop up? Or is it because you progress and you start knowing people and the candidates that were the BDMs or the marketing managers or finance, they end up becoming the CEOs?
That happens, and I'd say they don't just pop up. I think, if you're not on that, chairman's list to give a call when his CEO's resigned, you're not going to get an opportunity to...
How do you get on that list?
Well, that relationship, and that can take years to build. You might have helped them 10 years ago, and it mightn't have come to fruition at that time, but you keep that relationship burn going in a very genuine way. You're on the list.
And it doesn't tend to happen between 9 and 5, Monday to Friday. It's what you're willing to do outside of hours
get out to the networking
to be
events,
known, to be seen, to build a network. And You know, sometimes you don't feel like it, but that's definitely contributed.
Yeah,
So that's the best way to do executive
Yeah.
search.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like fill the goodwill cup. Like, what can you be giving to these people who are the influencers that actually help them with their role that is nothing in return for you, but you're actually giving them, it could be, you know, how to retain good talent, how to attract good talent. You
Salary guides.
Salary
salary
data.
guides.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love
Definitely.
Yeah.
that. All right.
At what part of the process do you use those bits of information or documents? Is it at the start? Is it at the end?
What
Is it-
documents?
well, those things we just mentioned.
Salary,
Yeah, I
salary
think they
guide.
happen very fluid and ad hoc. So it might not, like, someone might just ring to, you know, pick your brain. And at times you don't have time for that. But you really have to allocate
gotta make it.
a certain amount of your week to be that ad hoc, you know, requests.
Yep.
Because they can be the things that people remember you for, that you didn't, not every single thing has to be commercialised. Because, you know, ultimately that's business development as well.
Yeah.
I actually think a lot of short-sighted recruiters that only are thinking about the dollar really cut themselves short for the long term. Like, I've seen rants on LinkedIn where this girl said something along the lines of, like, I'm sick of candidates calling me and asking me for career advice. I'm not someone to sit here and just walk you through your resume. And I'm thinking, that's literally what you should be doing.
Yeah, you're in the wrong game.
Yeah. I'm not. This is a free service for candidates, so don't come and ask me to help you unless you're paying me, type of thing. And it's
Yeah,
like, wow,
wow.
that's really
Yeah,
bad.
very
Yeah.
short-sighted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think as a business, we have always, for 20 plus years, put an enormous attention on candidate relationships. So that whole respect of telling them whether they're going through to the next stage. Like, every single person in our business gets a response.
Yeah.
That's where the tech platforms have been awesome for it to happen much more quickly. But otherwise, that's been a huge thing, and we are recognised for that in our region.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Give an update when you don't have an update.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's the worst quarter you've ever had?
First quarter of
Worst.
post-COVID.
2020 was
Yeah.
a shit year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it was literally
Like, it was,
lights on only.
yeah.
I think it was almost like, I think March 2020 was, I think it was the first time, it was your first time you've ever done a donut?
Yeah, April.
Mine was like $6,000 for the whole business.
Yeah.
$6,000 revenue, had like 8 recruiters, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm going backwards really fast
Yeah.
here. I
Yeah.
need to make a really quick decision.
Yeah.
But
that's
even for us, the other 3 quarters of 2020 were not great.
No.
Yeah.
So then none of us knew that COVID was coming in the final quarter. So it was already a shit year, to be frank.
We were
Like,
already,
Yeah.
Yeah, but interestingly, when that all hit, it came back to what are the conversations that we're having and still being there. And we worked just as hard as we did, you know, have done in the last 12 months, which have been really buoyant months and you know, awesome results.
Do you reckon it's going to dip? When?
Yeah.
Oh, look, I think we're in the Hunter, we're pretty fortunate. We've got a lot of diversification of business. So say the GFC, as Sal said earlier, it didn't even hit our sides. Then mining in 2013 did.
Yeah.
But even since mining downturn in 13, like the Hunter has got a lot of other sectors.
Yeah.
We will probably lag behind it before the capital cities will see it before we do.
Yeah.
Because I reckon Brisbane with the Olympics, there's a crane on almost every street in Brisbane.
Yeah.
So I don't know how and when, because construction and mining, obviously, they boost Australia.
That's
Yeah.
it, the diversification piece. I mean, I think, say, defence is a big market in the Hunter. We aren't in there at the moment. We need to decide if we're going to get serious
Are
about
we
that.
in or out? Yep.
Before we
Exactly.
miss the boat.
Don't half do it. That's another learning over
Yes.
the years.
All right, last question. This is a good question. Let's just make sure my mic's working first. All right. Has a client or candidate ever hit on you?
No comment.
Yes!
Don't speak, Ali.
No! This is confessions. If they have, what did they do? Are we talking like DM on LinkedIn? Are we talking you've screened them for a role and they've gone, hey, you want to come out to dinner with me? Or have they just flicked you a little naughty message outside of business hours? Come on, what do you got? Look at this.
I got offered a job by one of them because he wanted to get a bit closer.
Really?
So tried to poach her. There you go. That's a
Okay.
confession.
Yeah.
But that's always the best
And
compliment.
it's
when your
funny, my
clients offer you.
my response at that time, which was many years ago, we still talk about today. Whenever we need to break a serious moment.
What was your response?
Get your hand off your cock.
All right, so that's going to be, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouths, but that's definitely a yes from both the girls. That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us on Confessions of a Recruiter. Did
guys.
you have fun?
I had a
Yeah,
great time.
thank you.
Thank you.
How'd they go? Good?
Thanks for having us.
Awesome.
Are there any questions that you want to ask that are completely
Ad hoc.
inappropriate for in the office, but now that we're at a conference? Who's the funniest employee?
Oh, Liv, that's you hands down. Come on, that was an easy one.
You don't
That's
ask
a-
questions,
she
but
went
you're
That's
the
a
fishing.
answer.
pump up. Yeah, how good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and we're going to see you at the awards night.
For sure.
We are.
Look
Fingers
forward to
crossed.
Do
it.
you have any stories on what the awards nights are like? This is our first. What do we
Yeah,
expect?
we've heard some saucy things, spicy things.
They
Spicy things.
can get a little bit, I'll say, loose on the dance floor. Yeah, they're always a lot of fun. You may see the sun come up, depends who you hang with.
Yes.
Ah.
I remember being in a karaoke bar in
Sal and
Haymarket
Al.
till 5
Yep.
a.m.
The sun's coming up,
The sun
and
is
we're with
coming
Sal
up.
and Al.
Look out.
How good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much
Thanks,
for coming
guys.
on.
Guys,
Thank
great to
you.
talk to you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to another Confessions of a Recruiter podcast with Blake and Declan. We hope you enjoyed and got a lot of value and insights out of this episode. If you do have any questions or you would like to recommend someone to come on the Confessions podcast, we would love any introductions. And remember the rule of the podcast: like, share, and recommend it to a friend. Until next time.